Good morning, Jane Hannah from Healthier Happier You. Really excited to do this video today for Norwich High School for Girls and your Wellbeing Day. Hope you've all had a good week so far and looking forward to coming back to school next week, which will be very exciting. So what I'm going to talk to you today a bit about what I call the 5 pillars of health and happiness, and we're going to use fingers so it helps you remember what they are. So for me, happiness is all about finding your happiness from within, not looking for it from other places, so from other people or from friends, jobs, school, things. Happiness really does come from within, and we're able to control a lot of that, even though at times sometimes it feels like we can't, and that's by doing really positive things to help release all of our happy hormones, and we'll talk a bit about those with the pillars that we go through. So pillar number 1 is sleep. Sleep is so important, which is why I've said that one first. So how many of you bounce out of bed in the mornings, ready for the day, ready for a day at school and feeling really energized? Or how many of you are dragged out of bed by a parent or sibling and you don't wake up until the alarm? So what we really need to try and do with our sleep is give ourselves the opportunity to have, especially for you girls, most of you will be sort of teenagers or coming up for teenagers, but to try and have around 9 hours sleep a night. And of course, to get that, you need to work backwards from what time you have to get up in the morning. So that's about trying to go to bed nice and early and give yourself that opportunity to have a good sleep. Now, what's very hard for teenagers, as we know, is what happens is our internal body clock. So when it comes to our sleep, we have a clock inside us. It's called a circadian rhythm. And basically, that's what controls our sleep. So it's a wake cycle, so sleep-wake cycle, and that's internally controlled by our circadian rhythm, but actually it's externally influenced by the light and the dark. So what happens when you're a teenager, unfortunately, is your circadian rhythm switches. So where you might have been tired before at around sort of 8 or 9, actually it shifts to 10 or 11. And of course, what's very mean about that is you still have to get up for school the next day. So you have to sort of bear that in mind. And it's probably one worth mentioning to your parents when they're telling you to get to bed and get to sleep and you're going, I can't, I'm just not tired. And that is because your circadian rhythm does have a bit of a change. But what's really important with your sleep is there's 2 hormones called serotonin and melatonin. So if you remember those, serotonin reacts to the light and melatonin reacts to the dark. So in the mornings, what I want you to try and do is to get out in daylight as soon as you can, because what that does is that stimulates serotonin, and that's actually a really good positive hormone that will help make you feel really good for the day. So it will be much easier when you go back to school, because of course you'll have that commute, or you have to get to school, so you will be outside. Whereas I dare say maybe for some of you while you were schooling at home, that actually that was harder because you were just sort of walking downstairs to your to your computer or whatever to do that. So bear with me. We'll come on to hydration next. So yes, and then in the evenings, we need to increase our melatonin levels, and they react to the dark, which is why we shouldn't be on our phones and things before bed, because actually our brains react to the blue light of that. So think about in the evenings to stimulate melatonin, which is your sleep hormone, the dark hormone. It responds to the darkness, is to try and get off your screens, a good hour, at least an hour before bed. But also, if you've got bright lights on in the house, try and have a think about turning those down if they're on a dimmer, or replacing your bright lights for lamps and candles and things. So sleep is our number 1. So aim for 9 hours, dim the lights in the evening, get outside and have bright lights. Try and not have time in your room, because if you wake up and you suddenly look at your phone or your clock, and it's 3 a.m, for example, your brain starts to go into overdrive, worrying about what time you've got to get up in the morning and therefore panicking about getting back to sleep. So my top tip there is get rid of the time in your room. Number 2 is hydration, as I just mentioned, and we should all be aiming for at least 1.5 to 2 litres of water a day, and that's so important because water helps our whole body. So we can go weeks without food, but only a few days without water. So that just highlights how important it is, and the whole body is roughly about 50% of water actually, and our major organs, including our brain, are really high in water. So our brain is over 70% water. And actually when we're dehydrated, what actually happens is our brain begins to shrink a bit. But of course, when we're rehydrated, then your brain will go back to its normal size. But what that highlights is if we've got a really difficult task to do, or you're trying to concentrate on your homework or in a lesson, if you're not hydrated, you're going to find it really, really difficult to concentrate. So it's very, very important to keep hydrated. When we drink is also very important. So it's really good to have a drink first thing in the morning, because we've naturally become a little bit dehydrated throughout the night because we haven't been drinking. So have a little bit of water first thing in the morning. I like to put lemon in mine and have some hot water with it, and I feel very cleansed when I do that. But yeah, it's very important to drink in the morning, and also to drink about half an hour before you eat. And that will aid your digestive system, rather than throwing back lots of water while you're eating or after, because that's sort of too much pressure on your food within your digestive system. And also to have a little drink before bed, because like I mentioned, we do get dehydrated when we go to bed, so it's good to not go to bed dehydrated. And there's a link there, you see, with our water and sleep. So for some people, if they're not sleeping very well, actually it's because they're not drinking enough during the day. So here's your little challenge. Have a little measure of how much water you drink each day. If you're using like these sort of sports bottles, you need to be aiming for at least sort of 2.5 of those. And of course, if you're doing sport and exercise, then it's very important to replace the fluids that you lose. So, throughout the day, we use a lot of our water. Breathing, that actually you're losing water, and obviously when we wee and poo, that's water coming out. So we need to keep replacing those levels of water. So sleep was the first one, hydration was the second one. The next one is nutrition. So what we put in our bodies gives us the energy for the whole day. So have a little think about that. So from when we get up in the morning, it's really important that we have breakfast. Imagine you were going on a holiday in the car, you'd set off, your parents would have filled that car up with petrol. And I believe that's the same for our bodies. So first thing in the morning, you've got to fill your engine with some really good food for breakfast, because you've got a whole day to get through. So I think really good breakfasts are things like porridge, because they're what we'd call a slow release energy type food. So that will give you lots of energy throughout the day, because what we don't want is lots of spikes of energy. So when we eat high sugar food and a lot of processed food, so things that sort of come in packets and jars, those sorts of foods are often very high in sugar content. And what that will do is that will give us a spike in our energy, which will be quickly followed by a plunge, and then you feel like you need more sugar. And actually that has an impact on our brains, because the brain gets confused when we're spiking and dipping. So when we think about really good mental health, it's really important to eat really, really healthy. And we're always aiming for loads and loads of fruit and vegetables, because they're really good for us and they have loads of nutritional value. So as our food goes through our digestive system, and did you know our digestive system, if we took it all out of our body and unrolled it all, it would be 7 to 9 meters long. So you can see when you put food in, before it comes out at the other end as poop, it has 7 to 9 meters to go through. And that's the link with the hydration, because you need a little bit of water, water to support that digestive system. So as your body goes through the different parts of the digestive system, different nutrients are pulled from that. So when we have really high sugar and processed stuff, that there's not really any nutritional value in that. So actually it goes through the system and doesn't really add value. But actually when we're having really, really good high quality, nice fruit and veg, there's loads of nutrients in that. So actually that will take more time for the body to process that, because it's pulling really good things. And of course, our muscles, they need energy, and that comes from our fuel, and that comes from the food. So when we eat food, it goes in, it gets turned to glucose, which we know is blood sugar, and it's that glucose then that helps us keep going each day. But it's also for the brain as well. So it's really important to keep our energies up, for our physical and our mental well-being. So and also eating lots of good things like beans and lentils. And of course, if we're eating meat, then it's having to think about where that meat has come from. So actually, has the meat has that animal been sort of brought up in its natural surroundings and eating its natural diet? Because actually for for some meat, it's if it's bought if it's farmed on things like, you've probably heard of like battery hens and things. You know, if the animals aren't able to run around, then actually that they won't be healthy for you then to eat. So it's very good to have a little think about if it's healthily sustained and locally sourced for your meat. So we've got sleep, hydration, nutrition. The next one is exercise and movement, and it's really important to move as much as possible. And it's great that you'll be back at school, because naturally that will get you moving more, because you've got to get out, get to school. You'll be moving around in your bubbles, and hopefully PE lessons will be really interactive, and really soon your sports clubs will be starting again, which is really exciting. I'm really excited, especially for the swimming pools to open, because I've missed swimming. So it's really important to exercise and move as much as possible, because that's so good for our mental health and our physical health. So naturally for our physical health, it will lower our risk of illness and disease, and it will keep our bodies really healthy. But actually for our mental health, there's a hormone called endorphins, which are released when we exercise, and that's a really happy hormone, and that helps keep us really happy throughout the day and motivated. So that's the hormone that our exercise will release. So try and move as much as possible. Don't always think of exercise as, you know, going out for a run, going for a swim, or playing tennis or something. It's just about moving. So walking as much as you can. You know, if you can walk to school rather than get in the car, obviously that's not doable for everybody, but where you can, that would be a really positive way of doing it. Dancing, if you're in the kitchen or in your bedroom and a good song comes on, just move the body as much as possible. You know, our bodies aren't made for just sitting down. You know, we're all scrunched up when we're sitting, so actually our bodies are made to be long and tall. So actually by walking, that's a really positive way. But yeah, exercise and move as much as possible for the release of endorphins. And just as a reminder, we've got sleep, hydration, nutrition, exercise and movement, and our last one is what I call mindful me time. So often many of us feel like our minds are really full of things, and mindfulness, when you just take the word mindful and split it, you've got mind, full. So how many of you feel like sometimes your mind is so full, you know, you're thinking of all the stuff that you've got going on, so revision, exams, homework, schools, friends, you know, lots and lots of things going on. And as much as possible, we want to calm our minds down and give ourselves an opportunity to just have some easy time. And it's as simple as just sort of 5 minutes a day, if that's what you can fit in. And just, it might be you can find some yoga on the internet to do, or you might just even some lovely meditation, which is all about concentrating on your breath, or it might just be go outside for a walk for some me time. But what we're trying to do is, especially before bed, is calm our minds down, which is why it's really good not to be on the phone looking at social media and stuff before bed, because something might just make you think, oh, that's made me think like rubbish things, or, you know, it's got you excited about something. It was actually before bed. We need to be really, really calm. So different things you can try. Yeah, just going for a lovely walk and trying to be really mindful when you're walking. And mindfulness is about being present in the moment. So actually not thinking about yesterday and not thinking about tomorrow, but enjoying today. So actually when you're out for a walk, you might really, really look at the trees and realise how amazing they are. And especially at the moment, I just love walking and seeing that all the like spring flowers are coming, so there's lots of crocuses everywhere, and the daffodils are coming out, and the snowdrops. But it's really important to have some what I call mindful me time. So maybe that's just like reading a lovely book, or just taking your mind off all the chaos that might be going on in your life, and just concentrating on now and thinking, actually life's okay, because right now our life is fine. We have no problems right now. All of our problems are in the past or in the future. And a top tip is, if you're feeling sort of very anxious and a bit stressed, is try and think about what you would tell your friend, or maybe your little brother or sister, if they were telling you what you were stressed about. You know, try and look in as a third party to see that, you know, everything's actually okay. So healthier, happier you. Get lots of sleep, drink well, eat really, really colourfully, eat the rainbow, keep moving and exercising as much as possible, and have some me time to switch off your mind. So hopefully you'll come and join me on a Healthier, Happier You programme soon. But enjoy the rest of your health and wellness day, and take care.